Hello and welcome to a Ventasso production of Low Tech to No Tech. This is a channel geared more toward people who don't know that much about tech but are willing to learn. Today we're going to be covering some electronic cameras, both analog and digital. And the ones we're going to be covering are a RCA VHS video camera. And the second one is going to be an analog camera also. This is going to be a micro cassette camera. Probably used this around the early 2000s. And it's got a fully articulating screen. It's got a viewfinder, but it uses the little micro cassette tapes. And then you would have to take the micro cassette tape out, put it into an adapter so that you could play it in a VCR like the first camera. The third camera is the Sony Mavica camera. This would take a floppy disk and you would put it in. It would take up to four JPEG pictures, or you could take some video and then you'd have to flip out the floppy disk and switch it out and put it back in. And then finally, the last camera we're going to cover is the second Sony camera I ever owned. This is the Sony Handycam. This actually has a 60 gigabyte internal memory, which was pretty handy. And it allowed you to have a flip out articulating screen and just download the information when it came out. And by the way, all four of these cameras seem to be working. But we'll keep going with that. Okay, let's take a closer look at these cameras now. This is the RCA camcorder, VHS. And when we had this thing plugged in, which we'll do now, it started making a funny whirring noise, and it wouldn't clear up in the viewfinder, so let's take a look here. Okay, this is the AC adapter plus battery pack all in one. Alright, let's plug this bad boy in here and see what happens. Okay, power on. Yay! Alright, the viewfinder's still looking kind of funky. But again, the VHS tape would go in. Open that thing up. This way. And then you would hoist this thing up to your shoulder. It's pretty hefty. Funny noises. This is the zoom toggle here. And on this side, we've got all these buttons. This is the autofocus here. Do your ISO, fade, all these different editing buttons. And then you've got your VHS buttons here. You could actually play back what you were viewing, or actually what you were recording, and look through the visor of the viewfinder here and watch the video. Alright, that's that one. Let's get that out of there. Turn this thing off. Unplug it. We're going to take a look now at this JVC compact VHS camcorder. The 4-inch LCD color monitor. Fully articulating screen here. Got some controls up here. Over here. And more controls here. Focus, wide, close up, lens cover. Record button. Again, this uses those little micro cassette tapes that you would then have to put into a adapter in order to watch them. The third camera that we are going to be looking at is the Sony Mavica camera. This is the first Sony camera I ever owned. And how you would use this one is with a floppy disk. And you'd figure out how to get it out. There it is. Floppy disk could probably hold about 4 JPEGs or some video. And then you'd have to swap it out, put a new floppy in. Pretty soon you were carrying stacks of floppy disks with you. But it did have a nice screen here so you can look at the different aspects of the Sony menu. And finally, the last camera we're going to be looking at, the second Sony that I've ever owned, is this Sony Handycam. 60 gigabytes of internal storage. I remember specifically looking for something like that in Best Buy. So I didn't want to be carrying around stacks of floppy disks. Again, this one also has a fully articulating screen. Look at that, it's just satisfying just to turn that thing. Some buttons on the inside here for you to use. Can't remember exactly what they all do. And then you can connect it with a micro USB to your computer or USB-A and download the videos. This camera was very handy, if you will, and it still works today. All right, you're probably wondering, Ken, how did you switch from all those different camera angles? Well, let me tell you. Camera 1 is my Sony A7 IV camera. As our fellow YouTubers like to say, it is a beast of a camera. It is both for photography and video. Camera number 3 here, we're going to go with 3, is my Sony ZV-E10 camera. This camera came out about probably middle of summer last year. It has been hard to get since after Christmas. Because of the chip shortage, this camera has been non-existent. I've checked, B&H, Amazon, local camera stores, couldn't find this thing anywhere. One day, all of a sudden, I just happened to check Amazon. There's not one but 2 ZV-E10s on there. They were the white color, but I took the camera anyway. It was the original price of $798, which included the kit lens, which is not too bad of a lens. We're going to cover all these cameras one day in another video. But those 2 cameras were gone, and then after that, I haven't seen another one up until the other day when I checked Amazon again. They happen to have one camera on there, a ZV-E10 camera without a lens, going for $1,300 to $1,500, depending on if you got it new or used. The price is really jacked up on these things. But anyway, I digress. So let's go now to our camera 2, which is my Sony ZV-1 camera. I got this camera probably about 2 years ago now. It is a great vlogging camera. I use this camera as my camera 2 option. It has a great 4K video. Finally, the number 4 camera, which I use for the close-ups, is my GoPro Hero 10 camera. That camera works great. Okay, this is my A10 Mini Extreme ISO. This is what I use to film all my videos. Each one of these buttons is a different camera. Camera 1 is my main camera. This can use up to 8 different cameras, but I only have 4 connected to it right now. Going over this will be in another video in more detail, but I just wanted to show you what I use to switch the different camera angles. I would be remiss if I didn't discuss my first professional camera that I owned. This was back in the 80s, and it might have even been used into the early 90s. Can't remember, it's been so long. This is an actual film camera. It is the Minolta X370 with the Vivitar electronic flash. Now this is a film camera, so what you would do is you would open up the back here of the camera. Put that open. Put your film canister in here. Stretch the film across the sensor, the back sensor here. Put the tip of it into the slot here. Close this. This is a mirrored camera, so it means it allows the light to go up off the mirror into the sensor. Close that up. Now it's ready to go. What you do is you keep this handle here, this lever, would advance the film. So each time you took a picture, and then you'd advance it to the next picture, you have a counter here. Your ISO dial is over here. This is the shutter speed. The shutter speed right now is on 60, which is timed to the flash. And then this is a manual, well, even though the lens says auto, this is a manual lens for focusing with an f-stop of 2.8. So it's a larger opening for the camera, would allow more light in, and it would give you that blurrier background, or how the fancy people now call it, the bokeh. So this is a Minolta camera. It's still in working order. And apparently I found out through my research for low tech to no tech that you can use these older lenses on the new Sony cameras and other electronic cameras, the E-mount cameras. You can get an adapter, which I am waiting to get from B&H Photo. I have it in my cart, waiting for it to come off a back order. Once I do that, then I can attach this lens to my new cameras, and that should provide for some pretty decent photos. All right, thank you for taking a trip down memory lane with me with all these analog/electronic cameras. Plenty of other low tech for us to know tech about. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.